Hey everyone, RogueGold here. Welcome back to the Division 2, and today we're doing this one final time. In this video, I'm going to be providing you all with a recap for the third and final chunk of Descent comms released from Year 5 of the Division 2. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, the Descent game mode, which released back with Season 1 of this year, offers up one lore comm each week if you go in and beat the weekly project, which is to defeat the Nemesis. These lore entries have proved to be quite substantial and important to the overall plot and lore of the game, so for many, these are a must for keeping up with. On the flip side, many either do not have many or any of these comms due to their personal dislikings of Descent, or they're just far behind, given that if you don't do the project each week, your comm rollout stalls and you still only get one comm the next time you do it. So all of that is to say, I've done these recaps each season thus far. You all really seem to enjoy them. And so, on the eve of Season 3 and Year 5's closing, I've got one final recap of the last 17 comms released, and with this we'll have covered all 52 comms released for the year. In case you missed parts 1 and 2 to this series and you want to go back and see what you missed out on, I will leave a link for both of those videos down in the description below. And as we get into this, if you end up enjoying the video and you want to see more stuff like it, then be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, as I've got tons more Division 2 coverage coming your way. But without further ado, let's get into this. And just as a quick reminder, the way that I break these recaps down is that given these comms cover a variety of different subplots and are all placed at different time periods, I group them by each plotline, reorder them chronologically, and present them that way. So let's begin with some of the shorter subplots here and save a few of the more juicy reveals for later. Beginning with the Descent simulation. Now this was covered many a time in the past 2 seasons comms, but in this batch we get a sense of how the location and design originated. In one comm we see Alex Ortiz talking to Calvin McManus, and basically tell him that they need to do some field tests on this technology outside of Ortiz's offices in the DARPA labs, stating that they need far more space and far more discretion. In another comm, we then see Cal go to the NSA analyst and ask her how difficult it would be to retrofit, quote, the facility into a simulated battlefield in order to test a new variety of tech. He says that it's imperative for this upgrade to be underground, as what they'll be testing is beyond classified. So I think this just neatly wraps up some final details on the whole origin of the Descent simulation, and it now makes sense as to why it's located at the NSA facility in Washington. There was supposedly already some kind of underground bunker there, but they then repurposed it for combat testing, as both the Division organization and the stuff Ortiz was working on wasn't suitable to be paraded around at DARPA. Moving on, we then get a few more comms involving Conley's time working at Ortiz Robotics. Again, in the past seasons we learned that she worked there both before and after becoming a Division agent, and we also know that she was eventually fired from Ortiz by Alex, but this fills some of the in-between. First, we see Conley talking to Cal about an idea to improve water cannon designs. Cal then pitches potentially turning them into fire dispensers instead. Eventually, he asks how she likes the watch, this of course being in reference to her Division watch. She says it's great, although she prefers Anna to Isaac. This draws intrigue from Cal, and we see that he has no knowledge of what Anna is. And that's certainly a very interesting detail, and I for one would be curious to know if in the present day he's now aware, or if that's something that Claire and Ortiz were able to keep from his knowledge. Presumably sometime after this we see Conley pitch the Firebrand prototype to Claire, praising its capabilities for aerial fire, but Claire has reservations and shuts the idea down for being too war-crimey. Lastly, we then see Conley talking to Alex, in which he too passes on the design, and tells her that she needs to come up with something prior to her contract ending in 2 months' time that she can pitch to either Cal or Nat, otherwise she'll be fired. We then have 2 quick entries pertaining to the operator suit that we wear when in Descent. Firstly, we see Claire pitch Cal on adding the operator suit to his budget, saying it's needed to test simulation operators' physical and mental limits, and she ultimately gets him to agree to it by also admitting that she's tacked the bulk of the cost onto Natalia's budget with Ortiz, saying that she told her the tech would be used to test out her Warhound's effectiveness. After this, we then see the suit test in action, with Claire and Cal present to oversee, and Brian Johnson, who ended up being the recruiter, in case you forgot, being the test subject in question. Claire explains some of the suit's features like thermoregulation, but Cal is concerned that Brian is too good for the test. That is until Claire shoots Johnson with a simulated TAC-50, proving that even the toughest of agents still aren't invincible. Then let's talk Warhounds, as we've got several developments on this plotline with this season's collection. First, we see Natalia attending a demonstration by Alex and Claire where they've given a Warhound Anna's voice and AI controls. It talks about its capabilities to inflict genocide, mayhem, and crowd control. And this is where Natalia puts her foot down on there being no AI voice in her tech. She finds it too off-putting. In their next meeting, they've then removed the voice from all the Warhounds, which Natalia appreciates. However, she still has reservations over their ability to transition onto 2 legs and run. She finds it rather impractical and bulky and requests it be removed. At yet another meeting, with the warhounds still occasionally toppling over whilst upright, Natalia mocks them as war turtles. And in order for the fix to properly go in, Claire and Alex inform her that they need more time and money. They try and soften this blow by telling her that they fixed an issue with the hovercraft's guidance systems depending on water depth levels, but Natalia is still annoyed and tells them with their production rates she'd rather produce the warhounds in-house based off of Ortiz's blueprints. Later on, the two showcase to Natalia some further improvements. After she leaves, however, they discuss how they've withheld from her the fact that the warhounds have shade tech integration, which Claire reassures is fine because they're still, quote, years away from deployment. Now this is quite the interesting detail, and it brings a few things into question. Was this before the creation of Diamond, or does the shade infrastructure somehow layer in with that in their construction? As well as, how long before the green poison was this? Did they even have time to go back in and change this? Because if not, that could be a potential vulnerability that we could exploit in our fight against Natalia. And that's further underscored in this final comm for the subplot. In it, we see Alex ask Cal if he wants his order upgraded to include warhounds, which he said would be essentially free. Cal declines, however, because the way he sees it, not only are warhounds conspicuous and hard for a sleeper agent to keep nearby and not draw suspicion, but they also don't aid in the friendly and trustworthy persona that agents are meant to embody as they go around saving what remains. Despite this, however, Cal does clarify with Alex that they've retained the ability for division agents to access Natalia's warhounds should the occasion arise, presumably using that same SHD tech integration. The one stipulation to this is that Cal says only agents with the classified status will be able to do this. And this is certainly very intriguing, as the only person that we've ever come into contact with who had this status was Jack Bonney, the Black Tusk operative undergoing the Hunter recruitment test at Jefferson Trade Center back when we tracked down Captain Lewis there in Season 9. Could classified agents refer to division agents who are indeed hunters? Could it refer to something else entirely? I don't know, but this is absolutely a key detail, and one that I have pretty good faith will resurface sometime in the future. The last major subplot to go over has to do with Anna, everyone's favorite AI that us players unfortunately don't have access to, at least yet. A few entries here across a good length of time. We first see some of the initial brainstorming that Claire has of the Anna concept. She tells Alex about her ideas, and they go back and forth discussing several hypothetical issues and how they'd work around them, including things like using analytical data and processing to detect if a perceived threat were coming from something like a movie or if it was actually real. This one ends with Alex asking, "Who's Anna?" and Claire responds, "The AI." We then skip ahead to see Claire showing Alex the first Anna prototype. The system's personality shines through very hard here as it quickly and without mincing words calls Alex out on his BS when he tries to tell Claire that he loves the design, and it asks her permission to mark Alex as a hostile. He concludes by saying that she may be a little off-putting for some people, which is indeed the sentiment that we continually heard later on from people like Cal and Nat. Skipping forward again, we see Claire ask Vivian Conley if she'd be willing to run a field test with Anna, apparently to run a pulse test in map terrain. They settle on Vivian choosing a New York City play to attend, as that will have a large but controlled number of people nearby. They agree not to tell Alex of this excursion, however. And then lastly, we see Conley passionately arguing with Claire and expressing her concern over Anna being scrapped. This presumably being after both Cal and Nat have turned down Anna's design over Isaac or the proprietary diamond. The two agree that Anna is far superior to either alternative system. Vivian also makes an ironic and somewhat timely joke about AI on social media going haywire and how Anna isn't like that, but Claire ultimately diffuses the entire situation, admitting that while yes, Anna will go dormant for now, she says, and I quote, "She's still there, lurking beneath the code on the mobile Shade server." And to me, this is the other huge revelation of this season's comms, because I think this begins to contextualize much of what we're seeing in the game's main plotline involving Aaron Keener and Theo Parnell. The item they were chasing this entire season was a mobile Shade server, or some kind of mobile Shade server equivalent that we know had something to do with Anna. Maybe this is even where Theo discovered Anna to begin with, somewhere within a mobile Shade server's code. And so this would also explain how exactly they plan to use the mobile servers to establish a wider rogue network. If Anna's code is in there to begin with, then that makes things much simpler. We've also seen Natalia pretty aggressively chase these mobile Shade servers as well, like at Camp White Oak with Brian Johnson back in Year 5 Season 2, as well as in some of the franchise's transmedia projects, which I won't spoil here. But this could begin to explain the why, which up until now we didn't really have a clear picture of. Why does everyone want these servers so bad? Well, if it's one of the only ways to access Anna, potentially the most intelligent and advanced AI systems of the three, then that could begin to paint a much clearer picture. Alright, and then finally we have one miscellaneous comm, one that's, when I matched all these up, didn't seem to quite fit with any of the other subplots that we got. It involves Claire talking to Cal shortly after his initial Isaac integrations at the NSA. Like how in previous seasons we learned that he first used it for surveillance domestically as well as for spyware on groups like Mexican cartels to monitor and predict their next moves. Claire says that all of the data that Isaac is compiling is filling up their physical storage much faster than anticipated. And so he can either invest more money into additional storage that will inevitably fill up again, or she says that they can transition his database to the cloud, which, while potentially less secure, would of course cost dramatically less to maintain. So Cal goes with the cloud option, and I wonder if this ties into the overall backdoor notions with these AI systems, or for how Theo was able to hack into and manipulate Isaac's system so easily back during Warlords. Alright my friends, and with that we have now covered all 52 comms released via the Descent mode in Year 5. A pretty big task for sure, but one that I enjoyed doing. And I thank each and every one of you who tuned into these seasonal recaps. I truly hope they helped out. A lot of very interesting and compelling lore and information released from this avenue, and so it's definitely been pretty exciting to see the revelations as the year went on. That said, if you've got any further questions about any of this stuff, the lore covered, the acquisition method for these comms, as usual, leave it all down below and I will do my best to respond and clear things up. But I believe that is going to do it for me today, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. RogueGold. Out.